Hi folks, welcome to another edition of the Omnist Hour. Slap the music down a little bit here so we just have a nice little background noise. Today we're going to be picking up where we left off in the last one. I'm not sure quite what I'm going to call this one yet. I'll think of a good title as we go, but I'm going to be building on the ideas of sacred geometry. Again, sacred geometry coming from the sacred, from the spiritual, and not the physical, which is a bit of a different direction than most people approach this subject. And one of the reasons why it's caused so much consternation in the battle between, quote, science and spirituality. Okay, so let's get our whiteboard back up here. Now, as a recap of kind of where we left things off last time, we were talking about how the world of souls was structured in the past as a pyramid of souls and is moving toward a new paradigm of basically a superfluid of souls. And I got into the discussion of how that superfluid works. Okay, so let's draw some of the basic things that we had going on. Oops, guess we better pick a color here. Oh, let's go green. Maybe make it a little bit darker green. Can we? Let's go for that one. Okay, so as we were discussing, the pattern of the soul's representation, geometric representation, is as a tetrahedron, a that's not going to work at all. Let's clear that off. Go with a smaller marker. Sorry about that. Okay. Tetrahedron. Let's use my poor drawing skills. Or a perfect three-sided pyramid. And as you may know, if you study pyramids, the four-sided ones are only one of many possible varieties. What's common to a pyramid is a flat base and a set of equally spaced segments that flat space is divided into, radiating from some point above. Okay? So, the components of the soul consist of three tetrahedrons. We talked about two last time. I didn't quite get to the third, and we're going to get to that now. Okay, so the first one represents the first four levels of spiritual attainment, and those roughly correspond to dimensions, spatially and time, and fairly well correspond to what level of perception that soul has within their current incarnation. Okay, the second structure, tetrahedron, represents the soul's spiritual makeup. Okay, so the first one reflects your current incarnation, your current experience. The spiritual level integrates all those experiences into a spiritual structure unique to your particular soul. And as you incarnate and reintegrate incarnation information, what you've learned from that lifetime, this spiritual representation becomes more solid, if you will, more well-defined. Okay? Now, there's another level of awareness, which is what I term the God levels of awareness, and those are represented as well by another tetrahedron. Okay, so at this level, what is happening is at some point, the definition of this spiritual self reaches a point of coherence, a point of resonance, that it begins materializing this God self. And how does that work, Rob? Okay, so we've got these 12 levels of spiritual achievement, awareness, consciousness. Each soul vessel, each soul vehicle has a certain range of perception that it is capable of. Okay, so if we talk about typical human, for instance, perhaps a soul first experiencing human incarnation would have some awareness of 4 levels of reality, position, and time, and maybe some awareness of higher levels. Now, when I say awareness, I don't just mean that you read a book about mythology, you read the Bible, you read whatever. That's not awareness. That can help, obviously, but until you've actually experienced something, you're not really going to believe it. Okay? So any given soul at any given time, in any given incarnation, falls into one of these spiritual levels. Remember I said there were 12. Now, if you fall into one of these spiritual levels, you don't necessarily become completely unaware of the others. What is the truth is that you have an awareness of the level you're at, a very strong awareness of the next level above, and a diminishing awareness of the levels beyond that, to the point where many souls would think, okay, here's kind of how it works. So let's say that I am spiritually a level 2 soul. Okay, so that means that basically my processing of reality is 2-dimensional, binary, dualistic. Anything I like is good, anything I dislike is bad. And I think that you have come across people in your travels who are like that. To a large extent, their approach to anything is my way good, any other way bad. Okay? The next level beyond that, the 3rd level of consciousness, more 3-dimensional, sees that there's more than just 2 sides to a problem. Okay, and this 3rd level of consciousness perceives the world as something that maybe is unchanging, will always be the same way. They're not quite comfortable with the time component of reality, of consciousness, and they tend to think of things in terms of a balance, a trinity of balance, good, bad, and the force that keeps things balanced so that we don't change and time never moves beyond a period of cyclicality. When one reaches the fourth level of consciousness and adds the time dimension, one is able to see that, you know what, what I perceive as truth today, or in my current time, in my current culture, my current religious milieu, may be true, may be useful, may be the right way to think today, but not necessarily was the right way of thinking yesterday or will be the right way of thinking tomorrow. And when I say right, I mean consistent with truth. Because to my way of thinking, any belief system, any worldview that's not rooted in truth is going to get you in trouble. Because anything you accept as truth that's not truth is building up a cognitive dissonance in your brain, and your brain really isn't what's doing the thinking for you. The soul is the thinker. The soul is the consciousness. The brain is the processor you've been given to manifest the soul's thoughts in one particular physical reality. Okay, so if we go a little bit further, a level 5 soul is one that has become aware of, absolutely without doubt, there is a spiritual dimension to my reality. Yes, I'm in a given incarnation. Yes, I am experiencing life as a human, but I know without doubt that that life as a human is just one of many lives that I will have in the course of my spiritual journey. So this level is an awareness that I have a soul. I can feel it, I can see it manifest. I have absolutely no doubt that I am really a soul and not a body. The body is just this vehicle I'm driving around for this incarnation. Okay? It's not something that you're going to get from a book. You can say, oh, I believe in the soul, I believe in reincarnation, I believe, I believe, I believe. If you have to say, I believe, you don't know. And you don't really have any claim to this level of consciousness. And this kind of goes into a parameter I want to give you. That basically, for most purposes, soul at any given level can perceive and aspires to a level 1 above where they're at. Now, some might be jumping ahead, might have read every single esoteric book that they could get their hands on, and wants to try to leapfrog from level 2 all the way to full godhood. And there are many, many, many souls who get caught up in that kind of, I think they call it spiritual bypassing. It's like you want to get to the God level without having gone through all the lessons, all the learning that you need to have on the way in between. And if you've been around people who are like that, you find that they attach themselves to some very advanced ideas, but interpret them in a very selfish way, self-centered way. And, I've seen spiritual bypassers in action, and they're not pretty people. They don't know how to have healthy families. They don't know how to have healthy relationships, because they're so sure that if they just latch on to the right principles of life and force it on everybody else, that they are going to become God. And ultimately, that signals that they have no fundamental understanding of God, who is not an authoritarian micromanager of the multiverse. Far from it. God is the most anti-authoritarian soul ever created. Why? Because God has had to live through firsthand all the gyrations of the huge family of souls as it developed and learned and voted on rules to govern itself. And every bit of physical manifestation you see reflects rules that were worked out over countless experiments, designed to try to make souls play better together, to make them better at creation, at co-creation, at cooperative creation, which is the way creation really happens. If your belief set is rooted in the idea that God said, let there be light, God said this, God said that, God said this, God said that, and then slept for the rest of creation after 6 days of dictating everything like a communist dictator, your spirituality is rooted in some very, very fundamentally flawed assumptions. They may be useful for you at a low level. It may give you this nice false sense of security that allows you to get through a very uncertain life, thinking that there's somebody looking out for you. Well, there is somebody looking out for you. I mean, that's the way the system of souls is geared. Okay, so at the point that you get to the third level of consciousness, and when I say get to, I don't mean see it once in a while, maybe experience it, when you have a particularly tear-jerking communion at church, when you have a meeting of minds, when you have this wonderful synergy of souls that comes with meeting somebody that you feel like could be a soulmate. That is allowing you to touch a point at the next level of spiritual attainment, or maybe the level after that. And kind of the way these spiritual levels work, they alternate between levels of connection, levels of reaching out and trying to connect with other souls and synergize the points of view of others, and levels of disconnection where you retreat into yourself and you look for truth, spiritual truth within. And if you look at the wide range of spiritual practice, spiritual belief espoused by humans of all walks of life, you'll find that they tend to fall into those two categories. In fact, even within a single religion, you will find those two things in effect. So in Christianity, there are many Christians who believe that communion, that sharing, that coming together as the body of Christ is where it's at, and there are others who retreat into mysticism, into asceticism. The hermits, the monks, the holy men who go up to the mountain to meditate and pray. And this pattern is prevalent in every human religion and is indicative of this pattern of development on this 12-step program to reach full godhood, a full awareness of the game of souls that matches, is equivalent, but not the same as God's view, because God is an individual soul. And when God incarnates, he's got preferences and characteristics that have grown upon his soul, because that's his personality. That's what we define. How we react to all of the experiences of all our incarnations develops our personality. And a soul without personality is a soul that cannot really relate to other souls. And this is the dangerousness of religions, ideologies like Buddhism, which seek to denigrate and dismiss the ego, which is inseparable from the soul. The ego is the personality. And yes, it has dark sides. Yes, it has characteristics which make it clash with other souls. That's not a negative. Conflict is inherent to creation, to evolution. Without conflict, without a struggle for supremacy, for hierarchy, nothing would exist. If God was a Buddhist, God would never have created a single other soul. Would have just sat on his non-existent Bodhi tree, under his non-existent Bodhi tree, and thought about all the things that I didn't create because I know they're not going to work anyway. Now, is that kind of God that you would be thankful to for giving you nothingness, or a somethingness that you wish was nothingness? I don't think so. Do these beliefs serve some purpose? Yes. There are souls who get to a point in their... Here's an example. Okay, in these lower levels of consciousness, you are very, very subject to persuasion, manipulation, temptation by souls of higher levels of consciousness. And those temptations tend to resonate with every other level. So if you're in the first level of consciousness, which is a unity level, a oneness level, we're all in this together. This level of first level of consciousness doesn't see any of this pattern of learning above it. Sees, well, we're all created equal, right? Every human is equal and should have every single opportunity the same, and all the same rights and privileges and blah 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 blah. Okay? Now, anyone who knows anything about the soul knows that that is foolish. That we need restrictions purely because not every soul is equal or will remain equal. There are souls that have gone down a dark path, and each incarnation they are tempted to make the same mistakes and challenged to try to do something different. This is how the multiverse helps train souls for their appointed role. And there is a role in the multiverse for every soul. For the souls that gravitate towards discord, disharmony, troublemaking, manipulation, authoritarian control, mind control, propaganda, those are the souls that eventually, if they don't change their ways, inhabit the universes that souls go to when they stray too far from God's path. Okay? And you could call these universes hell. They probably seem like hell, except for the higher level souls in them who are running them, who actually get a big thrill out of being the devil, being the tempter that gives souls a choice between cleaning up their act and moving toward God again, and falling further down this path of trying to define what kind of a dark god they want to be. Creating new sins, creating new ways to manipulate and control and destroy without reason. And there's all kinds of opportunities for that, and they serve a purpose. They serve a purpose in the most fundamental way of teaching souls that one life is not all you get. And if you approach life from that standpoint, you're not going to live it to the fullest. You're not going to take the chances that move you to the next level. You're not going to risk making mistakes. You're going to be essentially very open to being put into an authoritarian system that tells you what to do, what to think, when to think it, how to do it, and it basically defines every aspect of your existence. And that is essentially how hive-minded species work. And, if you feel comfortable with that authoritarian rule, then knock yourself out, because there will be plenty of opportunities to occupy species, to occupy universes that are run along authoritarian lines. Okay, so you can observe with fleeting glimpses levels of consciousness 1 or 2 levels above that which you're at. Now, this is very, very interesting from the standpoint of this event we're in. Okay, because these levels of perception also kind of have energies that go with them. And the energies, like the levels are thank you. I will have later. I'm working right now. It's good. Thank you, honey. These levels are connective and disconnective. Connective levels tend to be ones that are focused on creation, on the melding of ideas, the gyration of ideas that generate something that's better. The levels of disconnection are levels of destruction, disconnecting from the lower self, the higher self. And those levels of disconnection on a species level, or on a planetary level, or a system level, or a galaxy level, are the ones that usher in these eras of great destruction and cataclysm. And so let's look at the levels of connection and disconnection, and I think you'll understand this better. So, 1 is a level of connection, 2 is a level of disconnection, 3 is a level of connection, 4 is a level of disconnection. Okay, where do the negative ideas of apocalypse come from? They don't come from the oneness people. They think everything's perfect already. Just radiate love, light, and wonderfulness, and everything will be fine. The second level, the level of duality. Apocalypse, apocalypse, apocalypse. The world's going to come to the end at the end of this age, because that's what's in the good book. And we've got to go, and it's true. It says we have to go through that to get to this better place. And that's part of the captured truth. At the third level of consciousness, which is, you could term a Trinity consciousness, that's again a level of connection. That's the level of the Christian that says, you know what? There's a lot of bad stuff going on here, but I believe that there's some force or forces, call it Jesus, call it God, call it Mother Mary, whatever. There's some force that's going to get us past this, because they can see this fourth level, this level of disconnection, is something really bad that we got to get through, but they can also see glimpses of the next level of connection. And so this level is where you start looking at, well, you know, I know I have some temptation that's going to lead me to this level of disconnection where what I want, what I need, what is going to make me successful is more important than anything else. But I've seen people, and I believe deeply, I know that you can get to this next level of a spiritual person, this fifth level. And I'm going to go for that, because most of the prophetic teaching that all religious traditions are built on says that yes, there are going to be challenging, hard times, but somehow we're going to get through them, just like we got through the Great Flood. Just like, I don't know, some chicken-like dinosaurs got through that big cataclysm. Okay, so how do we approach the God level? This fifth level, the fifth dimension, the dream of the age of Aquarius, is the first level of true spiritual understanding. And even though you're going to die, you're going to reincarnate, when you truly reach a new level, and you can only reach it by fully integrating the experiences of the previous levels through many incarnations, then you kind of set a maximum level for you to shoot for in all future lives. And you can pretty much, at least if you are a spiritually aware person, anywhere within the confines of this, and certainly in the confines of having achieved godhood before, you can pretty much interact with somebody where they're at in their spiritual journey. And not judge them for it, not put them down for it, just understand that, oh, this is a newer soul that's come into existence fairly recently and has a lot of lessons to learn. And insofar as I'm able, I'm going to try not to teach them any bad lessons and try to give them good information that will help them move upward, understanding that their path may be completely different than mine, and their optimal trajectory to godhood could be along a very, very different path. Okay, so let's see. So how do we get from one level to another? How do we know that we've integrated all these things? That goes back to what I was telling you in the last presentation of getting to the point where these tetrahedrons are not only perfect, but they intersect perfectly. Now, here's two tetrahedrons that aren't intersected perfectly. The spiritual is out of alignment with the physical. That's a person who is still struggling to find harmony between their spiritual self and their physical self. That harmony is first attained when you manage to get the spiritual self and the physical self aligned into this perfect double tetrahedron. And that's when you get your first glimpse of godhood. And you start experiencing the spiritual powers that you are capable of. Whatever they happen to be, whether you find that you now are starting to manifest gifts of healing, gifts of prophecy, gifts of telekinesis, gifts of energy manipulation. And there's all sorts of ways that spiritual power can manifest, depending on what your particular focus of passion has been. Whether you're focused on art, what kind of art, whether you're focused on science and what kind of science, whether you're focused on organization and what kind of organization. Okay, and when we have our first glimpse of Godhood, that power is not controlled. It's not always available. And the first temptation is to, oh man, I was able to do this incredible thing. I'm going to go try to find ways that I can magnify that power and make it more definite, more certain. And yes, there are ways to do that. They can be very dangerous because this is a way of cheating, a way of magnifying or moving beyond your current level without doing the work. And everybody's tempted to do that, and to some extent it does help because until children play with matches, they're not going to be afraid of fire, correct? So this level of approaching Godhood is a very dangerous one. It's a very selfish one. And if you go by the levels of connection and disconnection, let's see. Connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected, connected. It's a level of connection, which is a level of growth and creativity, but also one of great risk, that you're going to drive your soul into a dark side of the next level, the level of disconnection. Okay? A dark god going through a period of disconnection is going to be retreating to their own universe to experiment responsibly with the new powers that they've discovered, and is going to be very careful not to step on any other souls inadvertently using those powers. A dark soul moving to the next higher, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, ninth level, from ninth level, which is the first level of Godhood, to the 10th level, is a big challenge. And many souls that had thought they were on a light path will discover that they have way too much darkness still to avoid becoming a dark god, becoming a manipulative god, a controlling god, a dictating god, a cloying god, a nanny god. And what inevitably happens then is either you go for it and you become a dark god, or you decide, you know what, I see enough disconnects here that I need to go through some more incarnations to really fully integrate all the lessons I've had on the way to achieving this one God incarnation. And a God incarnation is what I term a Messiah life. And if I really can't, I don't think I can adequately describe what living a Messiah life is like for anyone, because I know what mine has been like, this one, and I have some inkling of what some of my previous Messiah lives were like. But I cannot describe those and really help you much with yours, because you're on a very different path than I am. But at any rate, the whole system is geared towards never letting souls rest on their laurels until they reach full godhood. Now, why would you say that when you reach full godhood, you can rest on your laurels? Because that's the point at which you are fully aware that there is another universe, your very own universe of creation. And if you want to disconnect from the rest of the multiverse, fine. You can deal with all the virtual souls in your virtual universe you want to. But you won't be creating anything but lessons for dark souls that are attracted to your universe. The souls that are attracted to light will ultimately want to be part of the prime universe, God's universe, which is the universe of responsible creation, the universe of laws that are fair and just, and that are designed to correct injustices and unfairnesses, not create new ones. And I think, if you look at the patterns of where we're at today in human society, we're going down a very dark path of correcting old injustices, old unfairnesses, with even worse new unfairnesses and injustices. And I think if you've taken anything from my discussion here, you know that that is going to land a lot of souls in dark universes or many reincarnations to come to a better understanding of what fairness and justice really is. Not only in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense. Fairness and justice does not mean God wins. That's not God. If the God you worship is a winner, is a dictator, is the one and only, you're worshiping the wrong God. You are worshiping an anti-God. Whether you call him Jesus, Allah, Vishnu, communism, capitalism, whatever name you give to this supreme force that you think is going to be your savior, there's no supreme savior. That's not the way creation works. You can look at nature and see that nature is full of checks and balances. When a system gets out of hand, it either corrects itself or it dies. And if it dies, that leaves a vacuum of creation for something else to fill. And even if an asteroid came and completely obliterated the Earth tomorrow, all it would mean is that there was a certain set of souls on a certain set of paths that, for whatever reason, was cut off and will have to develop along other paths. The souls don't die. And you learn more in the balance from dark lessons than you do good lessons. You learn a lot more from somebody mistreating you, from something horrible happening that you didn't really deserve or you don't think you deserved, than you learn from something wonderful happen, winning the lottery or whatever. And if you've seen anybody who's come upon sudden good fortune and looked at what most of them do with it, you will agree with me that if you don't earn what you accomplish, you don't appreciate it. And there's a lot of folks on this planet that don't appreciate what our species has earned, doesn't cherish what our species has learned, wants to tear it all down and build back better. That's insane. That is insane thinking, people. And if there are enough people that think insanely, insane things are going to happen. And this is why in pretty much every one of my talks, I get to the point where I tell you about cultural Marxism. And this is the darkest force at work in humanity. Forever, not just now. We've given it a name. But cultural Marxism is a force that exists everywhere there are people who want to steal power from others, who want to control others. Because the easiest way to control others is by changing their worldview. And you change their worldview by changing history, their perception of history, because culture is made up of the cultural history of our species. If you destroy it, if you rewrite it, you can change people's worldview. And if you are destroying history to change people's worldview, you are a cultural Marxist. Whether you're a real Marxist, whether you're a globalist, whether you're the Catholic Church, whether you're a fundamentalist Islamic leader, if you are rewriting history, rewriting the lessons that you teach your children for your own benefit to gain or to keep power, you are working for an anti-God. You are working for the forces of darkness. And you won't be getting to spend much longer in God's universe. Because, as I've been telling you, there are new laws in effect, the laws that were tested by this whole experiment of humanity. The Gaia experiment is designed to demonstrate to all the senior creators, to the satisfaction of all of them, that this new idea of karma and all of the corollaries to it that have been developed in the process of testing it are really working pretty well. And the last idea that came, which is what humanity had to exist for, why we had to develop all this technology and develop artificial intelligence and virtual reality for, is basically a validation of God's artificial intelligence and virtual reality, virtual universes and virtual souls. What is a virtual soul? We've talked about this before, but I'll remind you at this point. A virtual soul is one which has limits on its free will. Its free will has become limited to what would God do in situations of moral ambiguity. Virtual souls are not going to rock the boat. They are not going to actively support dark forces. In fact, when they feel dark forces impinging on their life, they will join whoever is against that authoritarian force. And this is why you see these movements springing up all over the world of just everyday people who have had enough. You may look down on them and say, oh, they just don't get it. They just don't understand it. They're just the unwashed masses that don't really have a higher view of what's going on here. I'm telling you, if you're talking like that, you are a cultural Marxist of the worst order. And a lot of you guys reside in academia right now and think that your postmodernist, communist, authoritarian view of the world is absolutely correct because these people are so stupid they don't deserve to be able to govern themselves. Let's give them the illusion of government. Bread and circuses for the democratically believing mob. You guys have had it. This is game over. You're not proving anything to anybody but how stupid you are and how undeserving of the creativity that God has given you are. Because thought, truth, is not a democracy. You don't get to make it so because you can dream up some philosophy that's consistent with that. If that philosophy is inconsistent with human nature, and human nature is the soul's nature, you're blowing smoke up the world's ass. And I don't know anybody more stupid than an intellectual who builds a huge edifice of philosophy on a foundation of mud. And people are seeing through it. Because here's another thing that I will tell you about this event we're going through. The souls that are incarnated right now in human form, in the chosen species of the Gaia experiment, current, there have been other species and it didn't work. It worked this time. And the souls that are incarnated right now are going to earn, when they die, when they go through the reincarnation process, they're going to earn an automatic level up. Now that may sound like a great thing, but only if you're really a light soul. If you're a soul that wants to work with God, not against God. If you're a soul that works against God, you're going to be catapulted to a new level where you're going to be dealing with some demons that you can't even imagine. So if there's anybody from that team watching me, let's engage, let's talk. Tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm full of shit. Ideas are so much better. Tell me what false assumptions I've made. But I really highly advise that you start listening to people like me before it's too late. Because you and I both know that your biggest fear is death. Everything you do is done out of a fear of death. That's why your class has allowed the pandemic to happen, has not spoken up about any of the very, very strange things that authoritarian governments have done to supposedly fix the pandemic. You've not spoken up at all the specious reporting, studies, etc., that have been promoted by... Oh, Cassie. I got a little gift. I got a new headset, so I'll be giving better performances as soon as I can get this integrated with my system. Yeah, so the time is short. I can't tell you how long you have. I don't even know how long I have. But the days are numbered for the paradigm that you've been used to in incarnations up to this point. And it's going to take a long time for this law to fan out and spread, for this change in structure from the pyramid organization of souls to the superfluid organization of souls. And there will be places where pyramids will still retain some power for eons. That's the nature of this system. We're not going to destroy all the dark souls. We're going to give them a chance to lighten up or exile them to the universes of dark souls, where they're learning lessons about what it's like to be in a world ruled by dark souls. Lessons that humanity has been trying to learn for millennia and is still falling under the sway of dark souls. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be any easier in the spiritual world to bring about this new way than it has been in the earthly world. And there's still a lot of work for everybody to do. What I can promise you is that I know who's going to win this. And it's not like winning a war. It's not one side versus everybody else. It is making sure every soul is in the place where they belong, where they deserve. For as long as they deserve it, for as long as they want to be there. If you want to be a total fucking asshole, that's your right. It is the right of the souls around you to quarantine you, to limit you, to make sure that you don't hurt others with your weaknesses. Nobody is entitled to absolute freedom. That's absurd. You have to earn freedom, and you have to maintain it through your acts. This is the truth. This is the truth of God. Any God that tells you, oh, you just have to believe in me and you can do anything, any sin can be forgiven. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That's enabling and misleading people to become selfish, narcissistic assholes. And there are many selfish, narcissistic assholes in positions of high power right now. That's exactly what is going on with the pandemic. And these folks are so far out of touch with reality that they actually think they're doing good. And that is the worst kind of dark soul you can have. One who thinks they're doing good, thinks they're acting in the name of God or science or whatever, because their God, their belief is unassailable, can't be questioned. Those are worshipers of dark gods, anti-gods, devils. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up for now and play with my new toy. I hope you enjoyed that one. Like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever. We'll be back again soon for another episode of the Omnist Hour. Thanks. This is Rob Tromp signing out.